Hey everyone, it's the Shawn. Welcome to another edition of Great Sales Leaders, where we talk to sales professionals and sales individuals that are out there leading the profession, coming up with great ideas, and really moving things forward to bring lessons to you to help you in your endeavors as we go along. For those of you that don't know us as well or are tuning in for the first time, I'm the Shawn. I'm a corporate lawyer by training, but I've taken to time management and sales training by client demand, and it's something I really enjoy. My colleague and co-host Shannon J, Gregg, is also in the sales world, sales productivity systems, so CRMs, and Mj Callaway is also in the sales training world, and she helps people with workshops and doing great things. So today we wanted to put together a lesson about bouncing back and really finding your way, because all of us have these issues, have adversities, have training, and I do a lot with the future economy, and we think it's only disruptions that only happen more and more. So it's good that we take some time and think about what the future is. We remind everybody we love your comments. Drop them below. We will read them wherever you're watching it, whether it's on one of our LinkedIn channels or the Great Sales Leader YouTube channel. Wherever you're at, we'll read those comments. If you have particularly insightful comments, we might invite you on the show. So take a chance at it, see what you can say. With that, MJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to share this morning with the two of you.
Yes. So it's kind of a timeless lesson you have about bouncing back, and what kind of got you into thinking about that and kind of the difficulties of being in sales and redirecting yourself?
Oh, that's a very big question. I have had adversity both in my personal life as well as in the business life. And whether it is professional or personal, it's going to make a difference on the way you act and what you do. So would you like me to share some of the things that have happened to me?
Sure. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll start 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I left a 20-some-year marriage. And let me back up a second. So I was in a sales position where I was selling, and I'll say it was a cake job. It was a cake job because the space sold itself. I was selling spaces for events, and the spaces would run $1,500 to $15,000, and that was for a 5-hour rental. And I know that sounds like a high ticket number for 5 hours, but the space was awesome. And then people had to buy everything else with it. I loved it. My close ratio was unbelievable. However, it was during that time, it was a salary position. It was during that time that I left a 20-some-year marriage because my former spouse had an addiction, and he tried one night to run me over with his truck.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, a little bit of adversity there.
Right.
So it wasn't safe for me, so I needed to leave, and I left with $500. That was it. I packed my car with what I could. I had $500. And things were not great, so I had prepared ahead of time. I had some things in my trunk ready to go. I had a feeling we were going to get to that point, and I had taken a self-defense class prior to that gave me some information, some planning to do ahead of time. So I ended up spending a month on a girlfriend's couch, sleeping there. I didn't have anywhere to go. Fortunately, my son, my youngest, was in college, so I didn't have to worry about him at the time, but I needed to worry about a lot of other things. Unfortunately, with alcohol, it destroys finances, families, a lot of other things. And the position I was in at the time was not going to support me and my son and get him through, his other 3 years of college. So I had been recruited by a national company prior to this, and I kept turning them down because I loved what I was doing. And that company was a commission-based only company. Well, at this time, I was up against the wall. I knew I was good at sales, had never taken a commission-based position, and I jumped into it. So talk about a little bit of adversity.
Wow.
I was facing it.
Right.
Wow.
And so you've had to do this yourself, right? I mean, you've been a kind of Is the right word rock bottom? I'm not sure. Is that?
Oh, so Rockmore Sales. So I stayed in that company, so corporate sales for 5 years in an industry I didn't know anything about. It taught me a lot. The one thing I had learned through that, because it was an industry in building and construction, and I didn't know anything about that industry, instead of dumping information, a lot of salespeople dump information and they lose the client. I would ask questions. So by default, I became successful because I asked questions.
Yes. And I've heard this before in training materials for salespeople, that often the novice has the advantage and then the expert has the advantage. And when you get in the middle there, you're not asking the questions because you're starting to assume and you're starting to jump to conclusions. So a lot of times the early salespeople have that good questioning techniques, and of course the very experienced salespeople. But in the middle, people lose that questioning ability, or they forget about it, or they just don't do it as well.
Absolutely. That is what I found out too. That's what usually a lot of companies have me come in. It's for the people and I would say I do work with a lot of millennials too, with the ones who have been in sales for a while and they're stuck. They're not moving forward because they haven't quite hit the, rock star, and they're not really the novice anymore. So they're stuck.
I hear MJ, I can hear you talking about risk versus resilience. And I think that is something that is so important in sales. And when you were at this place, you said, great, I'm going to take this big risk, but you also had so much resilience because you were proactive, you're ready to bounce back. How do you encourage that when you're training people, especially these sort of ready to be great salespeople? How do you help instill risk and resilience in them?
There's actually two different sides to it. The first one is to understand what is keeping you from getting there, from moving forward. And I call it the sticky ball, hacky sack, and Super Bowl syndrome.
I love this.
The sticky ball, think about a sticky ball. Maybe your daughter has one. It goes against a wall and it grips the wall and it doesn't move. Fear does that. Fear will have us, sticking. It grips us and it doesn't allow us to move forward. And then think about a hacky sack. Without movement, the hacky sack is on the floor. It's movement. So you're stuck. You're not moving forward. And that could be because of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl bounces all over the place. And we have verbal drama in our head that bounces all over the place. And that can keep us either in fear or it could keep us stuck. So until we recognize what it is and it's usually one of those three things. Once we understand that, it allows us to implement some actions.
This is so great. So I would encourage everybody who is listening right now to think about MJ's lessons. And are you at the sticky ball where you're just throwing mud at the wall and seeing if it sticks? Or, are you the hacky sack who's just sort of sitting? Are you the Super Bowl? And which one do we really want to become, MJ? Are we supposed to encourage a little more Super Bowl if we're the sticky ball? Or how are we going to find that stasis that will really make us great salespeople?
To move forward, we want to get rid of all three of those balls. Instead, we want to definitely get them out of our way. Instead, we want to think about either being a tennis ball or a racquetball. Because with a tennis ball or a racquetball, they bounce high. So does a Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl bounces in too many directions. A racquetball or a tennis ball bounces high, strong, and direct. It has a path. When you hit it, it has a path. So when you hit the step you need to, you have a path to get to that goal, to get to that direction.
I love this so much, MJ. I'm sitting here thinking yes, I've been every one of these balls probably in the same exact day.
Well, and I think it points out the outside perspective that Shannon and I talk about a lot, and MJ, you may as well, is, sometimes it's just, you can't see where you are or what your issues are until you get kind of somebody coming in from the outside that can look at it from that fresh perspective, unbiased and without being caught in the middle of it.
Absolutely, that's what it is. And probably both of you, in a conversation with someone, you can identify, because you're used to doing this, you can identify what's keeping someone back.
Yep, exactly. Well, it takes looking at it and understanding it, right? And then once you start hearing certain cues and certain statements, a lot of times this stuff will start to pop up.
Exactly. I usually say in a conversation with a new client within 20 minutes, because of those words, tone of voice or body language, I know which one of those balls they're falling into, which one of those categories, and what's keeping them from being a rock star.
Right. So let's talk about this from a leadership standpoint. And we take the broad definition of leadership, meaning it could either be somebody running a team or running an organization, or somebody who's just taking a lot of responsibility. But from a leader perspective, if you are that team leader type position and you're looking at your team, what are you looking to identify to figure out where these issues might be or how to help your team members?
Okay, can I jump back? Can I hold on that question 1 second and jump back to when I had said there are two sides? So that's the side that's keeping us in place we need to get out of. Mm-hmm. Then the other side to help us move forward, and this is where leadership comes in also. There's also 3 categories. So the first one is I call A&A, acknowledge and accept. Acknowledge and accept where you are at this point. Without acknowledging and accepting, we can't implement anything. We can't move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we got to figure out where people are, get an assessment, right?
Right. And then the second one is, what is your determination driver? So a determination driver is goal and meaning combined. It can't be a goal without a meaning, and it can't be meaning without a goal. Yep. So and can I give you an example?
Sure.
Okay, so when I go back to and this has played a huge part in my role whenever I hit number 1 sales exec in this business, this industry I didn't know anything about. I had a goal. Now remember, I didn't have any finances, $500 moving forward. My goal was to have $20,000 in the bank.
Okay.
So that was my goal. The meaning behind it was I would be able to prove to myself that I could do it on my own. I would be able to prove to my 2 children who were millennials that their mother could do it, that she could walk away. So that was my meaning behind it. And I will say within that year, I had that $20,000 in the bank.
It's amazing.
So it was meaning and goal all combined.
Right. And we talk about that. And Shannon, when we wrote our book, It's About Time, that was one of the things we talked about was starting with your goal, because one of the mistakes we saw, and I think I see this with sales teams as well, is people start trying to improve wherever they're at without thinking about their goals. And it's all interconnected. You have to know where you're going, and then you improve the path to where you're going rather than just speeding up whatever you're doing right now.
Absolutely. And I use determination driver with that, because without determination, those 2, that goal and that meaning, will give you the determination that drives you to hit that.
Right.
So that determination comes in there. And then the third category is improvise. It isn't adapt. It isn't going with the flow. It's improvising. What can you do right now with what you have?
Yep.
This is so great, MJ. I love how your AADD and then improvise category can work for salespeople, for sales leaders who are trying to lead their salespeople, but also personally. I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm thinking, this is just great advice for life in general.
Absolutely. Because in life, we have adversity, personal adversity as well as professional. And earlier, Shawn had mentioned about disruption, and disruption in business can be anything. In that position where I hit number 1, within 6 months, we lost the GM, we lost a project manager, another salesperson, and a customer coordinator. Yeah. So think about this. Think about being in a stick shift car, 5-speed. Not that I know anything about driving one, but you're going down the highway at 65, and then your friend in the passenger hits the gear, and now you're in one. Not only are you bouncing all over the place, that poor transmission, and what is it doing to the car? And it's a domino effect. It affects everybody, from clients to internal staff.
Right, and one thing I've cautioned. I do another show on the future of business, and Shannon's going to be one of our guests here soon. She's been on before, but when we look at the future of business, there's going to be a lot of disruption. This is going to become more common. So that's why this is such an important skill. And we warn the salespeople that are sitting comfortable, got that easy position, everything's flowing. Those are the ones that are most likely to get disrupted because the automation and change is coming for them.
Absolutely. In fact, one of my colleagues who's in New York, we had this conversation last night. She was a rock star at AT&T, big rock star. They made an infrastructure change. She went from being a rock star salesperson to being bottom because of the infrastructure change. And that can happen.
And we expect that to happen more and more as AI and machine learning and these types of things roll out, because if you're just taking orders like you talked about at one point in your career, you had that easy position where things were just coming in. Those are the ones where people are like, oh, well, let's just automate that. And if you're not providing the value, asking the questions, tailoring the solutions, doing those types of things as a salesperson, you become easy to replace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think this is where your system comes into play, MJ, where you can accept and acknowledge, here's where I'm at. And then you start to decide, what are my determination drivers? And then how am I going to improvise from it? I mean, that plays perfectly. And I think everybody who's listening should be paying attention, because MJ, this is so fantastic, and it wraps it up from beginning to end. Sure, you might be here at the top, but one small change in your company, an acquisition, an infrastructure change, and all of a sudden you find yourself at the bottom. And how are you going to get yourself back up?
Yeah,
exactly.
And what do you, MJ? So just as we wrap down this session, we'll probably have to have you back again, since there's so much great information. But
Yes.
When you're working with an organization, what is your kind of process to bring these tools to them? What does that look like?
I mean, first, whenever a company or a client contacts me, the first thing I do is I have a conversation with them. Yep. And then I do an assessment. It's a 5-step assessment to find out where they are, where they want to be, what they think is stopping them. And through that, I get a great picture of where there's a gap in their system. Okay. And then I take what I have and I customize it according to what they need. Gotcha. So most of my programs are customized. When I do a keynote, even my keynotes, though what I shared with you today is part of my keynote, I will customize it for the industry. So I learn about the industry, and I've worked with a number of industries, so I have a handle on what else I can add to that industry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's great. Thank you, MJ, for getting us thinking bigger and thinking about the whole picture. So folks, we remind you, like, comment, share, let people know about this, get the word out to more people. There's a lot of sales teams that could use this information. So if you know somebody in the sales world, share it with them, send it out, and also drop your comments so that we can help get this out to more people.
MJ, can you let everybody know how they can reach you, where they can contact you, all the places they can add you? Where can everybody find you? Because I guarantee people who are listening are like, yes, I need that exact system right now for my team.
Well, thank you, Shannon, for that offer. They can contact me at MJ, my initials, at mjcallaway.com. And it's spelled like the Callaway Golf, even though I am not a relative. So Callaway. So MJ at mjcallaway.com. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn at MJ Callaway. They can connect with me on Facebook at MJ Callaway Speaks. Or they can call me directly at 724-396-4162.
That's fantastic. And you can see that that's going to be a worthwhile endeavor to keep in touch with MJ, to see what she's doing, to see see what's coming down in her latest learning. And then also maybe you can see her at a conference or event, go join her and learn about that, so that's a great opportunity out there. So go check her out. Shannon and I are at Shawn McBride or Shannon J Gregg on LinkedIn, all the places you would usually suspect. You can find us. You can also see us as great sales leaders. We want to remind you, leadership done right. Sales leadership done right. Sales leadership done right is our website where you can go check out past episodes, see future episodes. You can see not only MJ but our other guests there. So go check it out. Get some resources there, folks. MJ, we're going to have you back again to bring some more tips. So hopefully, folks, You'll stay tuned in, get on the mailing list so you'll know when she's coming back again.
Sounds great.
Thanks for joining us today. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for adding so much value to the audience.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, MJ.